Welcome to this session on tips on visualizing data. My name is Mac Bryler. I'm part of the Tableau team in Sydney. So today's presentation is based on some of the content we put together for the Tableau 9 roadshows that we ran a little while ago. Now the idea was to create a session that will give the audience some tips and tricks that they could take with them after the session is over and use on their own visualization projects back in the office. And this particular recording is one of the four elements of that session, and it focuses on visualizing data, or more specifically, it tries to explore some of the ideas that I find a lot of customers are struggling with, and that is, how do I decide on which visualizations I should be putting together in order to communicate my information in the most appropriate way. So before we get started, let's take a quick look at the landscape of different data visualization types. So on the far left here, we've got this idea of data exploration and using visualizations to uncover insights and answer your own questions and change perspective and slice and dice and blend data together and be in that flow of analytics. On the right hand side, it's the other extreme where we are presenting information to an audience, and that audience needs to understand what we're showing them, so we need to be a little bit more descriptive in some way and explain what we are showing. So there'll be annotations there. We'll be able to point to certain parts of the visualization, highlighting some insight and so on. Right. So as much as we would want everybody to be on the left hand side here and answer their own questions, majority of people tend to be consumers of data. So in this session, this is probably the area that we'll be exploring, is how do you visualize something and present it to an audience so it answers the questions that the audience is expecting. So it kind of brings me to the main focus of this session, which is what influences those design choices. How do we decide that this should be this kind of chart or that kind of chart, and how they should interact with each other and so on. And there are many things we could consider. So the audience could be one of those topics to consider. I mean, different audiences would require different kind of visualizations and dashboards. If you think about the executive team, we'll probably be looking at information from a more strategic level, right? To be higher level of a lower level of detail, I suppose. When we're looking at operational team, they're probably more tactical in the nature, and they're looking at more detailed data. And that's all true, and these visualizations would be different in some way, but I'm kind of failed to see sometimes people say, well, let's create an executive dashboard. What does that mean exactly, right? There isn't enough information in there to guide me in what I should be doing, how I should be creating this visualization. So that's sort of halfway there, but probably not enough. Purpose is another, where we might be trying to create something that will persuade you in a certain way of thinking, or maybe I'm trying to just educate you or inform you, or maybe I'm trying to create some kind of emotional response, or whatever the case might be. Again, we probably use different visualization types and show the information in slightly different ways. But again, it's a little bit fluffy for my liking, right? It gives you the guidance in a certain direction, but I would like to know more of a process that I could follow to guide me in choosing a particular visualization. So with all of that, it's just not enough to start, creating the right visualizations for a particular project or challenge that I'm trying to solve. So it sort of comes down to, as I've been thinking about this more and more, it really comes down to a simple thing of knowing what question you're trying to answer, right? And if we keep that in mind, let's see if we can find a way of guiding our thinking in the right direction. So let's look at some examples, and I'll start off by showing you something that many of you have probably seen before, a typical spreadsheet-like visualization. I mean, it's a table, it's still a visualization type. It does have some color encoding, as you can see there, and we are looking at a more of a cross-step style thing with time and some different line items on the side there. Now, when we see this kind of visualization, I'm thinking, well, this is a case of either one, people putting this together because that's how we've done it for many years, and no one's ever questioned, saying, is there another way that we could be communicating this to an audience? And no one's ever, just that we're just using different tools, but still recreating exactly the same kind of report. Or the second thing might be true, where maybe we're just lazy. You know, maybe we just we didn't take the time to find out what the questions were, what people wanted to see from this visualization. So the easiest way is to just dump everything on a screen and say, well, you figure it out, right? I don't really know what you are after, but if I give you everything, you can, take the time and effort to go and figure it out. Now that, of course, requires a lot of mental effort. And unless your question is like very specific, where you could be saying, particular point in time, like August, and looking at a particular actual number from the income statement here and just zoning onto that value, this is a great viz, but for anything else, it would be a terrible visualization to, find any insight in. So what we need to do, I think, is adjust our mindsets, to adjust the way we approach these problems, right? And again, if we keep that, what's your question, in our minds, see if this will make it a little bit easier. So, and as an example, here is a traffic sign, which those of you living in Australia probably see every day, and something very common you'll see probably in most countries in the world, showing you or giving you information about the parking area on the side of the street. And it tells you exactly when you can park and for how long and so on. Now, this is just a dump of data, to be honest, right? Because you can see a lot of people looking at these signs, scratching their heads, trying to work out, let me see, this is the time, am I allowed to park here or not? It requires a lot of mental effort on the part of the driver to work out what exactly this is telling us, right? Now let's bring this down to the basics. The question is very simple here. The question simply states, can I park here now? That's it. And for how long can I stay? This doesn't seem to answer that question really well. If we change this visualization into something like this, and then we ask the same question again, and you say, look, it's Monday morning, it's 8:30. By looking at that, I can see exactly, no, I cannot park here right now. Right? I can come back in half an hour and I can park, but not right now. So if the one on the left is not answering any particular question, it's like, you go figure it out. On the right, it's like, hey, this is what the only question that you will ever be asking of your parking sign, and I'm going to make this really easy for you to do. So let's go through a couple of examples that I picked up and see if we can improve on some of these visualizations with that thinking, back of our minds. So here's an example I picked up from a website called helpmeviz.com. It's a great place if you want to submit your own visualizations for others to give you tips on or recommendations how you could improve them. Or you can go and obviously bring your own knowledge and improve other people's visualizations and give them some tips on how they could maybe change the way they presenting something in a better way. So looking at this, the title says average retail product price per year. Yeah, that's exactly what this is showing us. We're not going to talk too much about the colors and the actual visual presentation here. We could spend a whole day just talking around that topic, but we'll leave it for another day. So as you can see here, we got 5 products over 7 years, and it kind of shows us exactly what it states. But when we started digging a little bit deeper, and we started asking some questions and say, tell me exactly why this visualization exists. Tell me what is its purpose, what's its goal, what's it used for, what will people make decisions on it, what are they looking for, tell us more. So when we did that, And I'm going to jump to another screen here, which is just a Tableau version of the same viz, which is, as you can see, very colorful. We then worked out, they told us that the question really that they wanted to answer from this visualization was which products declined in price since the launch of the product C in 2010. So you can see product C is the one in the middle there, and the green bar is 2010, and that's when they launched it, and you can kind of see that it's going up for the following years. So taking a look at this, we can work out the product A tends to be going down, product B tends to be going down. Again, a lot of effort in trying to work out what is quite a simple question, right? So see if we can improve on this a little bit. So firstly, since we're looking at 2010 onwards, we could use color encoding to just show us the stuff that we're interested in. We're not interested in the past prior to 2010. So that already gives us a slightly better view. But bar charts are not a great way to show time anyway. So by changing them to a line chart, it is easier for our eyes to tell when things are declining or moving up or down or level. And again, you can see the product A and B declining since 2010. But I've got to go throughout the entire chart to try and work out each one on its own. And this is only 5 products. Imagine there were more. It would become a little bit more complicated. So we could improve on this a little bit by putting them all in the same chart and have a single common timeline at the bottom. And again, looking at 2010, we can position our eyes there and we can see everything to the right from that. You know, which products are going up and down. Again, A and B are the ones that are declining. But with Tableau, for example, we could modify this to answer the question even better by saying, well, let's take 2010 and make that the beginning of time for us. That's the base on which we should start the conversation now. And if everything started in 2010, you can see from that point on which products went up in their price and which ones went down. Again, the 2 products down below, A and B. And it's again 5 products. Imagine this was 2030, this would become a spaghetti chart, right? It will be very messy, be very difficult to work out which products and whether you wanted to count them or whether you wanted to see specific, you know, product names on here. So maybe another way would be to use small multiples and simply have this above the line and below the line concept. And as you can see here, the lines, the products below the 0 line are product A and B, so you can clearly see those are the ones that have declined. And if there were 10, 20, 30 products, it would still be quite easy to differentiate them, right? And the others in some way went up from that point. Now, this is just one simple example of taking a visualization that in some way answer the question, but whoever put it together wasn't really thinking too much about the significance of you know, of simplifying it to make it really easy for anyone to see very clearly which of those products have declined. So this was one example. Now here's another one. This one is a little bit more realistic, I thought, because it was published in the newspaper. So I was in Seattle a few months ago, and being all jet-lagged and so on, at 3 in the morning, I picked up a newspaper that they usually leave in front of your door in a hotel, and I found this fascinating little graphic on the front page of the Seattle Times, I think it was, or one of the Seattle papers. And the big title basically said this was a comparison showing us how much teachers were paid across different regions, different districts, and the types of teachers in the beginning, mid-career, and veteran, and so on. But here's the fascinating thing. This was the caption, which, you know, you probably can't read in a small print there, but this was the caption attached to this visualization, which said, this chart looks at the 4 area school districts comparing what teachers earn in 3 points in their careers. So basically they're saying the reason for this chart is so that you can compare the teachers, you know, income across the different points in their career. So this is looking down from going from top to bottom, right? I can start comparing for, you know, Seattle public schools, say, and I can compare different beginners and mid-career and veteran teachers. Now, because they started using pie charts here, it's the size of the pie that's actually indicating how much they earn, and it's the comparison of the size of the pie that will tell me that. It's very difficult to tell that apart, right? So all I ended up doing is actually reading the numbers. $44,000, $59,000, $79,000. And if you're going to make me do the reading because the visualization itself cannot tell me very clearly what the differences are, you could have just given me a table, right? There's really no point in having these particular pie charts here. It doesn't answer the question the best possible way. So the two don't really match for my liking here. So again, being a bit of a data geek, I decided to pull this into Tableau and see if I can do a better job. And this is what I created. So in comparison, on the left, I created a simple bar chart. In so many cases, a simple bar chart is just such a brilliant solution to so many problems out there. So as you can see now, I'm looking at, say, Bellevue School District, and I got $44,000, $57,000, and $80,000. The bars give me a very clear, beautiful comparison there. I can even take it one step further. I can start comparing between districts as well. So for a beginning teacher, across districts, I can just scan downwards and I can see $44,000, $45,000, $40,000 and so on. So this, to me, again, by simply asking yourself, what is the question that we're trying to answer? What are we trying to communicate here? And what would be the best visualization to show that? It's as simple as that, really, to come up with a better visualization. So this brings me to the end of the presentation, and I will leave you with one last tip. And it's something that you should be doing with most of the visualization, if not all the visualization projects. As you iterate quickly through the different versions, get the consumers or the audience involved as often as you can, and let them, guide you whether you are in fact answering the questions in the best possible way. So running these viz reviews on a regular basis, a fantastic way of making sure that what you're creating is going to meet their expectations. So with that, thank you very much, and you know where to find us online, and if you have any questions, you can always contact me directly as well. So thank you.